Hey guys, Chris from Not Hockey Tutorial. This is the skateboard channel.
He's rusty.
I'm rusty. Lockdown got me rusty. Hey guys, Chris from Average Eskate Reviews here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the high performance bushing kit from Evolve. Now, I wanted to kick the video off by explaining why I got them in the first place. The reason behind that was more or less curiosity. If you asked me 2-3 weeks ago if I wanted to alter the way my board felt, how it carved, how it turned, I wouldn't have really been too bothered, but after finding a lot more about the bushing kits, a lot more about how bushings can affect your ride, it was kind of one of those questions of I kind of wanted to know what it would feel like to mess around with the different setups to see how it impacted the ride. Now, what I found after picking up the bushing kit was that it makes a massive difference. One of the things that is, I guess you could say, the justification for the price of the bushing kits is going to be the pivot cups, which I think is something that's not really mentioned a lot online. You get standard pivot cups inside the Evolve boards, which are black, but inside the bushing kit or the high performance bushing kit from Evolve's website that you can pick up, it comes with riptide pivot cups and they make a massive difference. Aside from them further softening the ride that you have on any of the boards that you put them on, they're also incredibly silent. So if you found cleaning your bushings and also your pivot cups, re-lubricating them doesn't make a difference in terms of the squeak, it always seems to come back. So far so good. I've not had any of those types of issues after re-lubricating them and switching out the pivot cups and also the bushings. So that's number one. Now, the second point is going to be how much of an increase in performance you get from the board from switching and playing around with the different setups that you get. Now, I'm a rider that's sitting somewhere between 76 and 77 kilograms as of today. And what I went with to try the bushing kit to begin with is I went with the 92A bushings, which are the yellow ones inside the high performance kit that you get. Straight away after getting on the board, I didn't even need to really ride. I knew that they were way too soft. I tried to tighten them to a point where the bushings were basically burgering and smushing out the sides. That's a very clear indication that you need to switch them up. So what I did from there is I went with the 95A bushings, which are the blue ones, and I put those on the board side of the board. And then I put the 92A, which are the yellow ones, on the road side of the board's kingpin trucks or double kingpin trucks. Now, although I do have the bushings tightened quite a lot, and most would say a bit too much, I should go up in the stiffness of the bushings, the sponginess and the quality of ride that I'm getting with the setup that I have right now is literally perfect. The first thing I noticed when I found a setup that worked for me, which was 95A on the board side and 92A on the road side, was how much of a spongy feeling you got from it. Now, this is me riding on the Bamboo GTR with the AT wheels. Of course, you can expect there to be a spongy ride, but with the setup that I had, it was even more spongy. The bushings were definitely absorbing more of the vibrations that you got off of the ground, off of the general terrain that I was riding on, and added a kind of spring into the board's performance when I was coming out of my calves. The board kind of kicked back at me and springed at me a lot more than it would just normally with the normal bushings and pivot cups that come with the GTR Bamboo. And it was one of the main differences or main performance increases that I noticed immediately getting onto the board. Now, although having that 95-92 setup on the Bamboo felt phenomenal, the place that I noticed it the most was in the GTR Carbon. As you know, super stiff carbon fiber deck. You don't really have anything to cushion the vibrations unless you put the AT wheels on it. But on my Carbon GTR, I have the 107mm wheels, street wheels, so you do feel a lot of the vibrations and bumps that you go over. It's kind of like my main peeve with the Carbon, but not enough so that I'd want to put AT wheels on it. I like the speed, I like the torque, so that's fun to ride. But after I put the exact same setup, 95 on the board side, 92 on the road side, the difference was something that I could feel clear as night and day. The second I stepped out onto the road, went over the same cracks that I ride over pretty much every single day. I'm not saying that they were absorbed and it felt like it was a completely new board, but I could definitely feel a significant decrease in the amount of vibrations that you would get from the board itself. Carving felt much smoother. I could be a lot more aggressive, a lot more responsive and maneuverable with my calves in both of the boards, but the sponginess and the softness that the new bushings added to the ride was something that you could distinctively feel the second you step out on these boards. Now, when you take a look at the price of the high performance bushing kits, for us in the UK, it's £79, which seems like quite a lot of money for bushings. Of course, you can buy the bushings separately and get what you need, which would cost you £9. But the issue here is that without buying the high performance kit, you don't have the ability to try different setups to find out what works for you. As I said at the beginning of the video, the reason I even considered getting the bushing kits, aside from wanting to make my board smooth and silent, was because I wanted to experiment and see if it really did affect the ride and what kind of setup would work the best for my needs. Now, although I've said that the setup that I have right now, which is 95 on the bottom and 92 on the top, is ideal, I'm considering going 98 on the board side and 95 on the road side. Now, this doesn't sound like a big deal, but aside from the bushings, number one, being comprised of a different compound than the standard bushings that you get with the Evolve boards, which really does affect the performance and the feel of the board tenfold. It's the fact that not only does it look better, but being able to stiffen up the base of the board in terms of the kingpin trucks that are closest to the board, and then being able to have looser bushings on the kingpin trucks that are closest to the road, has a massive, massive impact on the way that the board feels, responds, and rides. So just having a kit, being able to switch out different setups to find what works for you based on the conditions, based on where you're riding, all makes a big, big difference. And it's the reason why picking up the kit makes sense, so you can kind of play with different setups to see what works for yourself. And then when those bushings start to wear out and you need to buy replacements, you can then just buy single bushings because you know what setup works for you. The way that you can get over the challenge of the price of paying £79 for the high performance bushing kit is to go halves with someone. As you guys know, Ricky, my camera operator who also rides Evolve boards, wanted bushings. He's much lighter than me, so he wanted to go for the softer bushings, somewhere sticking between the 90 and even possibly considering the 87s, which meant the other bushings, because I'm a heavier rider, were there for me to be able to use. So we could essentially go halves, which worked quite nicely. It means that we do need to pick up some more Riptide pivot cups, which isn't really a big deal, but that's a good way to offset the cost, to be able to find what works for you, and then after that you can pick up single bushings once you know what setup you prefer. So having had time to play about, ride on different terrains with the setup that I have now, which again was 92 on the road side and 95 on the board side, and something I've got to mention is the original bushings that you get inside the Evolve boards just standardly are 95, but because the 95 that are in the bushing kit, the high performance bushing kit, and the 95 that come on the board as standard are made from different compounds, you get a different feel, even though they're both 95, which is definitely important to mention. The 95 in the high performance bushing kit feels so much better, so much spongier, so much more responsive than the 95s you get standard on the Evolve boards. Now, although I found kind of what's working for me right now, which is 95 on the board side, 92 on the road side, like I said, I've got the bushing set up quite tight. A lot of people would suggest having less threads showing on the double kingpin trucks, which indicates I need to go for a harder compound or a harder bushing. But because this is working for me, it's personal preference. It might not be ideal for a lot of people, but I like it. But like I said, what I am going to do is try 98A on the bottom, which is the orange bushings, and then 95A on the road side or the top, which is the blue bushings, just to see what kind of feel I get there. I will mention that on my Bamboo and my Carbon, I have the exact same setup, which is working quite nicely right now. And on the Stoke, I actually went 98 top and also bottom. Now this sounds insane because you'd expect the Stoke to be left to be able to carve and maneuver much, much more. But what I did to combat that was to have the bushings as loose as I could possibly have them. Now again, a lot of people would suggest going for a softer compound or a softer bushing to allow me to tighten the trucks up a little bit more, but it's working for me, it's what I like, and aside from that, it means I have orange bushings on orange wheels with an orange remote. It sounds completely insane and silly, but it works for me and I like the way it looks. So that kind of brings us to the end of the video. The only way that you're going to know how good these bushing kits are and how much they're going to affect you is to pick up the entire high performance kit, test out the different variations you can come up with. Of course, different wheel setups, different bushing setups, even having different colors like I've done with my setup over here is going to have an entirely different feel and performance for your board. So try that, then pick up the single ones later down the line. But if you're asking if these bushings are worth getting, 100% worth getting. Doesn't matter what your experience is. If you can make your ride better, why wouldn't you want to do that? As always, guys, if you have any questions about the different setups or about anything else, even about other videos you want us to make, leave your comments down below in the comment section. Make sure you thumbs up the video and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of the videos that I post. We've passed 4,000 subscribers and are on our way to 5,000, so thank you very much for subscribing if you're one of the subscribers. If you haven't, hit the subscribe button down below, please, and we will catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys, and peace out.